Hello, I am Natalia Wojtkowiak and you are listening to the Manage the Problem podcast. I'm creating this place for owners and decision makers of small and medium-sized manufacturing companies. In this podcast, I talk openly and specifically about the problems of the production industry. I explain complex issues related to production management in simple language. I advise how to create optimized processes and effective teams. This is podcast created by practitioner for practitioners. So if you are looking for a knowledge, inspiration in a field of effective and efficient production and team management, you are in the right place. Welcome. I hope you are ready. Manage the problem. Do you have a production where assembly is manual, automated or semi-automated? Does your process require a large number of components in a given time to obtain a finished product, and your operators go back and forth for components, causing confusion and generating losses? If you answered yes to 2 of these questions, you should seriously consider creating a water spider position in your production. In this episode, I will explain you why Water Spider will be Employee of the Month. And thanks to him, you can save time and reduce waste in process. I will also tell you how to implement it to avoid mistakes. Manage the problem. Let's get started. Water Spider is a production position where the worker delivers material, but also tools when needed to places and at the time they are needed. So if you were scared that I had idea to turn your factory into terrarium or maybe even a zoo, you can breathe sigh relief. However, the work of my spider, to better visualize its role, has something of circulating nurse who gives a right tools to the surgeon at the right moment. And I am not going to make a surgeon room in your production hall, but Water Spider will certainly help to improve the production and logistic process there. Our Water Spider is a position has significantly affect the balance of our processes and its productivity. So let's take a look at its duties. Let's imagine that our Water Spider is a Peter, not to be confused with Peter Parker. Peter is a boy who deals with working on a move, knows entire production process well, it's fluent in components and tools used on a specific workstation, and it's not problem for him works in order and repeatability. Every day, Peter works between workstations and the component warehouse.
Thanks, Natalia. Let me explain shortly my work. So, the process is simple. I received a simple schedule from the process engineer specifying on which workstation and at what time I would have an empty component box to pick up. It is important that I know what component it is, how much was in the box, and how much I should deliver back. I transport all empty boxes to the warehouse on my cart, which is specially prepared for this purpose. Each shelf is like a one station and holds boxes of components that are used there. After it, I go to the warehouse to look for components needed for the production and replace empty boxes with a full one. All components numbers and quantities are recorded in Excel. Then I come back to the production and return full boxes to the appropriate station. My job is simple. I always do the same thing according to the schedule and follow a specific route. Our production is not large, so one lap takes me 60 minutes.
Are you still wondering what is so awesome about being a Water Spider and where are all the benefits and profits I promised? Let me explain. Water Spider is a role that combines 2 areas, production and warehouse. So this alone can reduce the position. It's saving. Look, because our Peter goes to take components, look for them in a warehouse and bring them to all workstations, it means that no operator from any workstation doesn't do this. So they don't interrupt their work, they don't disappear somewhere for a long time, they don't have any extra tasks. They should be focused only on their job, that's all. Our spider works with a schedule and fixed routes. He knows the component he provides, he knows how and where to look for them, and keeps a list of them in a SAP or Excel. The result is bigger control over the material, higher work efficiency, but also reduce the risk of mistake, although it's never zero, but it's lower. The mentioned schedule ensures that his work is direct, time and place specific, and cyclical. The result is that production interruptions are much smaller. The process is stable and standardized, and in critical case, the station can be immediately supported with a delivery. WaterSpider has a very strong influence on ensuring that the process doesn't change, that the flow of components is constant, and that the standard is maintained. To all these benefits, I will add data that I measured during one of my projects implementing this type of system. The operator who went to collect components from each production center to warehouse covered 5.2 kilometers a day, and it took him on average even 1 hour 8 minutes during a day, where 7 hours 50 minutes is effective work time for him on shift. After implementing, the daily distance he traveled during work decreased to 2.1 kilometers. We get an average of 60 minutes of additional time during work day at each nest for a person. Production downtimes and waste have also decreased. I think you will agree with me that for small and medium-sized production, the sum of all these results and benefits mentioned earlier are very attractive. And here, I would like us to consider what to do to gain from implementing such a WaterSpider in the production environment. From my experience, it is important that the person selected or hired for this position meets several requirements. First requirement: must like working in motion and must be physical fit. This is position where you walk a lot and often bend or stretch. If the components in your production are heavy, they are also lifted. Of course, with a support of equipment and allowable quantity, but you must agree with me, it's not job for everyone. Second requirement: this person must know the process well and be aware of stages demand of components. Such a person must know what and how he should be knowledgeable about which component is used at which station. He should also be familiar with the warehouse's layouts and markings. Of course, with the time everything will come by itself, but the more proficiency you have at the beginning, the better. Third requirement is she cannot be tired of repetition of work. This position is based on repetitive activities limited in time. It can be annoying and there is no room for improvisation here, but there is a room for observation and reporting corrections. And this observation and reporting corrections, these are the last point of my list for requirement for WaterSpider position. Such a person is constantly in process, see the work of production, warehouse, and his own, of course. This awareness of process and its current appearance is invaluable source of improvement. So it is worth listening this voice because she can see more than we. Another important aspect that it's really worth preparing to implement WaterSpider is the layout. Layout of assembly of workstation or storage area for machine feeders, so that they are easily accessible and replacing containers doesn't interrupt work or doesn't involve squeezing between machines. For assembly stations, backside loading gravity shelves or conveyors work great. Don't forget about warehouse. Effective and self-explanatory solution is arrange the components according the frequency of the use. You can also dedicate aisle for WaterSpider in warehouse. Another common and well-functioning solution is production supermarket, which would be a place where the daily production demand for components is stored. And from this place, WaterSpider takes elements for production. This is shortness, the production to warehouse time, and it gives control over, even visual, the daily production consumption and its current productivity. However, I recommend this idea when we have a production area. The distance between places are really large and the supermarket has properly created visual management and the FIFO rules for components are kept. I mentioned about visual management. I plan to do a separate episode about it, but I cannot skip it in WaterSpider episode. So, this visual management is a way of creating a production environment based on the almost instinctively understandable signs and colors. You see the result written in green, and you understand without much explanation that it's a good result. You look at the red box lies on the red field on the floor and you know that something is wrong with this box. So do you think visual management is a new phenomenon? Of course not. Lights at pedestrian crossings, marking an entrance to subway or even a sidewalk for pedestrians and cyclists are also visual management tools. These tools support us in our everyday life but can also perfectly support your employees, processes and standardization. So, what solutions are worth using in your production? There is no one universal answer. I would have to check what your production and warehouse look like, how the process works and where there are mistakes. But I can give you some tips. In this process, the most important thing is to deliver an appropriate number of components or necessary tools to the station, done by a selected person along a specific route. That's all. Highlight this person with a different unique color of uniform or clear marking and make him/her visible in production. Water Spider often works with the boxes that he/she transported on the trolley. Buy him/her a card and design it so that each shelf is dedicated to one line or workstation that he/she supplies. Let the place on the shelf be labeled and have photo of components that are in the same place in the box. The workstation from which Water Spider retrieve an empty boxes or information about missing components should be also managed visually. For example, it marks the place where boxes are collected or handed over. If it is clearly visible to Water Spider, mark the stock of components at the station. Color green means okay, don't deliver. Yellow, inform that the components will run out after some time, for example 30 minutes. Red, alarm, components are running out. Maybe it's worth it for the safety of Water Spider and components to design a special road for it driven on. Then mark it with a different color on the floor and hanging signs and give the Water Spider priority there. These are just a few very basic and general ideas on how to improve warehouse and production and create tools to support either process. But I want to show you that there is a many solutions and they can be easily thought, planned and implemented. I hope you take something for yourself and your production. However, before you start, I would like to warn you against mistakes that may harm this project or even prevent it from ever working. The first oversight is not perceiving Water Spider as a separate production position, which has a significant impact on production stability. Managers, you often see him/her as errand boy, as an additional task for operator. No! Water Spider must be a separate production role, not an operator who assembles and additionally distributes components. The second mistake, which is also valuable information for a person dealing with Water Spider process, is the number of empty trips. It means when the Water Spider didn't deliver components because there was no need. Of course, such journeys will exist, but when they are frequent, it means that the calculation of frequency and route of the journey or number of components supplied or both is incorrect and should be rechecked. And I'm certainly far from blaming Water Spider. No, never. This is demanding role. I'm telling you from my own experience and observation that it's worth checking everything again before you judge the effectiveness of this position. Water Spider brings a lot of benefits to your production and its operating system. And believe me, it's very important that the new role in your company is accepted as well as possible. This won't happen if our Peter is exhausted after 2 days of work and tell his colleagues about it during the cigarette break. Information about it spread faster after production than he finished smoking that cigarette. In general, And this wanna be anything groundbreaking, but I wanna be clear with you, my listener. I believe that production companies where employees, from operator to manager, are tired of real number of tasks, feel mentally tired and motivated by mess and atmosphere at work, these companies are really poorly managed. Of course, you will never and nowhere create a workspace where everyone will be in 100% satisfied, because this is not even a case for Disneyland, but this is fairy tale land. But I met companies where it worked very well, and I ran projects in companies that could be example of how not to manage a company, production and people. Of course, I will keep the name of this company to myself. Okay, but back to the subject. The fourth and last mistake is lack of supportive environment for Water Spider and its suppliers. What I mean here is the training not only for Water Spider but also for others, operators, leaders, managers, warehouse workers, so that they know benefits of working with him, and it is important. So they know the rules of visual management, ordering components, driving on the road if Water Spider has priority. It's very important also to prepare the warehouse or supermarket, Water Spider's trolley and the workstation in such way that they create a network of information for this worker. From my experience, and I have already implemented several projects of this type on various productions, it shows that this project, the role of Water Spider and production cooperation with it are a great start to implementing work standardization in company. Calm, balanced, people-oriented work and standardization goals. I invite you to listen to the next episode of Manage the Problem podcast. I will also be grateful for feedback, positive comments and sharing this material with others in our industry. I want this podcast to be a valuable and interesting time for you. You can find me on LinkedIn and you can hear me the Manage the Problem podcast on Spotify and YouTube. I hope I help. Manage the Problem, Natalia Wojtkowiak.